Hey folks, we've got a good show for you today. We're putting plants in the Fluval Flex. It looks great. And while I'm doing this, I'm also talking to you about I'm reacting to some of your questions and some of your comments and stuff, and kind of giving you a little bit of feedback on the past two videos on our road to putting this thing together. Stay tuned, it's coming right up. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec, and today it's time to aquascape not only the Flex, but the 210 as well. What footage I shoot of replanting in the 210, I'm going to save for a future video that's going to be about breaking down the 55. It was a great experiment, you know, a dirted tank experiment that I think did really well. There are some pitfalls that people worry about taking down a dirted tank, so that'll be probably my next video. But for now, I've got a lot of great plants. I've got some plants I did not expect to get out of the 55. Really amazing plants. I love Crypt Park, and it's really hard to grow. I put some in when I first started that tank, and some stuff grew over it, and then it kind of faded away, and it kind of went back and forth, but I noticed it never quite died out. I had these tight little bushes. But by the time I'd removed everything else and started pulling it out, I saw that it had gone all over the place. Like it had kind of creeped into some dark areas and stuff inside the tank where I wouldn't think it would grow. Most everything grew towards the brightest lights, which were right in the front. I've got some taller plants too. They're called Vesuvius swords, and they're in pretty rough shape, but hopefully I can make them bounce back. I've actually had these plants or their parents for a long time. They love to eat at the root, so I might even add a root tab underneath the area where I plant them. Anytime I put a root tab in, they seem to like really snap up. They start shooting off runners and trying to make more. And of course, that's where these that I have came from, you know, from their original parents. These are just their offspring. So I've had a lot of these. I've killed a lot of these. I'm going to give them a spot with a decent amount of light. Probably right here. They'll actually get some light from the window, just a little bit. I think all the UV's blocked. I'm not sure if there's even any benefit of the light coming from the window. But I'm going to use it to sort of obscure the ends of these things. I'm glad I got these kickstands. I think it's actually going to be the perfect amount of space to kind of get in there and really work inside of the tank. All right, so the next step for this is I'm going to drain the water out. I'm actually going to just drain this out into the yard. I guess I might actually send this over to the pond, which needs to be refilled anyway. What I wanted to try to do with this is really soak, and something I never have done with aqua soil, is like really soak it and then pull all the water out and then soak it again. I did something similar when I started the dirted tank. Basically, I filled it up and drained it 4 times, and as per Dustin's recommendation. Made a lot of sense. Things that leach out, the stuff on top, the easy stuff's going to come out first. But I got dozens and dozens and dozens of comments about conserving water, and I guess they weren't all wrong. Water in Tennessee is a lot different than water in Southern California. I mean, we have all our water. We don't have to get it, from other places. So when you say wasting water, basically our water goes down the drain. It goes into a water purification plant, and then it comes back. But even with that being true, I mean, there's no point in kind of needlessly wasting water. So I've been doing water changes from the 210. 30 gallons out of the 210 is actually a pretty decent water change. So I just take the water from there and I'll put it in here. And then from here to the pond, and from the pond up into the sky. So that seems like a reasonable compromise for rinsing out this stuff and maybe not wasting so much water. What do you think? I'd mentioned that there was like good bacteria on the wood, and that was going to help preserve that by using water from an existing tank. At least one person pointed out that was it's a little confusing. There's no bacteria or beneficial bacteria actually in the water column. All the beneficial bacteria is attached to things all inside of your tank. So in theory, there'll be beneficial bacteria attached all throughout the wood that's in there, any porous area. So by putting water in the aquarium that comes from a fish tank that's already going, it doesn't contain the bacteria, but it contains the stuff the bacteria is going to eat if it was in a populated aquarium. That's super confusing though, and I don't think I explained it very well, so I'm trying to make up for it now. How'd I do? So yeah, so pulling water out kind of does two things. One, it conserves water a bit, and two, in theory, my theory, it contains the stuff that the bacteria would eat. So in theory, there could be like urine and whatever is coming out of the fish will be inserted into here. So if there is bacteria on that wood, it'll have stuff to eat. I don't know if I'll be using any of the carbon or the charcoal. I won't be using that at first. Well, I don't know. We'll see how cloudy it gets. Sometimes I use it as a cheat to make it look a little bit nicer. And that would also be a good way to maybe wick away extra nutrients let loose by this soil. I really think draining this and filling it back up, maybe even twice, would be like a really super heavy water change at least, to the first week. I think that would be the best way to approach this Amazonia. And that's part of the reason I didn't go for the full ADA, underbelly as well. I just never had those kind of problems with the fluorite underneath it. And things seem to last a long time. I mean, yeah, I'm buying into the marketing a little bit, but I gotta say, I've had planted tanks that went on way longer than they were supposed to, like the cube back here, and they're still growing plants pretty well. So if it works, it works. All right, so I'm gonna go eat lunch with my wife and come back, and you'll have no idea that happened. All right, enjoy. Now, as far as filling the media sponges in the back, what I decided to do is just kind of forego the carbon altogether. And what I did instead is I added what it came with, as far as like the ceramic biological media. I put that in, the stuff that came with it, just straight out of the package and into the foam. And I added with it some seasoned stuff that I had out of the sump. I usually keep a sack of media in the sump that I can pull out easily and add it to other tanks. So what I did is I took that sack of media and I actually split it into two different bags, and I put it in each of the sets of foam. To be most effective, I should probably add fish at the exact same time, but what I think I'm going to do instead is just kind of test the water over the next couple of days and see. Now normally Amazonia will release some ammonia and stuff, and I honestly don't know if it's the kind of ammonia, if it's going to react with the bacteria in a way to sort of kickstart a cycle, kind of like doing a fishless cycle by adding ammonia like some people do. So I'm just going to kind of watch the numbers over the next couple of weeks, and the best I can I'll report back to you and tell you what I saw. I think adding some seasoned media at the very least is going to start getting that bacteria loaded in there. Now granted, it'll die off if it doesn't get enough fish waste to process, but like I said before, I'm using water from an established tank, so hopefully it's got a little bit of what that bacteria needs to eat already in the water column. And if I do a couple more water changes, there's probably even more opportunity to add some fish waste in there without actually adding fish. But who knows, if the numbers look really good, over the next couple of days, I might go ahead and add an Endler or one of the tougher fish in there and kind of see what the reaction is. I would only do that to make sure the good bacteria doesn't go to waste. I'm putting it in there to kind of help the cycle start. That needs to establish before any fish really get in there. Also, you need that cycle to really run its course before your plants are going to grow at their optimal levels too. Well folks, and here it is as of now. I changed a lot of my plans making this tank. There were a lot of things that I had planned to do that just didn't end up happening. For one, I really was going to experiment a lot with botanicals and going to fill up. My plan was to do just a few small areas of of short plants and to, you know, fill in with botanicals and stuff. But as I started taking apart the 55 upstairs, I realized I had just so much of this crypt. Way more than I thought I did. Like it had kind of gone everywhere down there. So I wanted to bring it all back down and just replant it. It's the most of this particular type of crypt I've ever had, and in the best condition that I've ever had it too. So it's kind of exciting to, I mean, this was 2 little plants, you know, maybe this much of the aquarium here right in the front. That's how much I started with in that tank upstairs, is like maybe 2 or 3 little pots of those plants. And it's just grown into this quite a few little bunches of plants. There's actually a few more up there that I haven't finished getting yet. I'm going to have to go back up there and grab them. And I'll probably end up putting them in the 210. I've been putting any plants I'm not using in here, I've been putting in there. There were some plants that I wanted to keep, but only kinda. So I kept a few small, perfect specimens of them. I even have a couple of little things planted in here and in some other tanks. And I basically just did that because they grow really rapidly, and I can always make new bunches of them over time. And while I didn't want them like out of my life completely, I don't have anywhere to put it right now. So I thought it'd be best just to kind of start it over. This tank was really easy to put together. The kickstands sure helped a lot. I've gone on and on about them, but it is really tricky to work with this lid if you don't have something to kind of help you out. For one, as you can see, the condensation automatically takes effect, so if you remove it, you've got drippy water to deal with. And in a lot of the tanks, that involves getting water either on the back or on the front of your glass. This has a little lip to prevent it if you don't go up very far, but there's some definitely always condensation to deal with whenever you open the lid to this thing. What kept happening with the 15-gallon too is I'd prop it up and then it would get bumped, or I'd accidentally hit it a little bit more and it would slide and then crash behind the aquarium, and then you'd have to go find it. It never broke or anything like that, but it was quite annoying and something I always had to deal with a water change. A lot of times I just kind of set it sideways, catty corner, just so I could still have the light in there and work. But even then I'm kind of digging my arm into a hole and trying to figure it out. And with the pendant, I found that it's been a much better scenario. But you can cure that same problem with those kickstands for the 15-gallon too, if you still got your lid. Also, it's been confirmed that they work on the 9-gallon. So yeah, this was definitely a really good idea, and probably something Fluval should consider when they make these things too, is maybe a little something to kind of help out with that lid. It's been a lot of fun. I think adding the second light really helps a lot. I really like the way Fluval's arranged the light cycle for these. They seem to dim. Like my big pet peeve, I guess, with the Kessel lights is that they go down to maybe, it seems like 30%, maybe 25%, and then they just drop. They just immediately, they go dark. So it does dim and it kind of changes color and stuff, but it does it much slower. This light here and the light that's on the face tank both really get more granular. I mean, it gets really dim before it switches over. Another person, I think in the very first video, had recommended a red for night. They had said that is the best way to view nocturnal animals, and what's cool is with this one you can go all the way to red at night. I've been playing with that too. It's pretty freaky. It's kind of an interesting deal. I'm not sure if I'll keep doing it. For one, there's no nocturnal animals or any animals of any kind in here yet. I really don't want to deal with the algae issues that could potentially arise from leaving any kind of light on overnight. We have sort of an interesting mix of colors with the wood that's in here, but I think over time this lighter wood will end up matching the other woods. That's pretty much the way all of them looked when I first put them underwater. So they all should end up at this brown color here from the older piece of wood that I brought in from the tank upstairs. And one of my viewers asked about the artwork that's in the room and wanted me to show it real quick and kind of tell you what it is. Right up here we have a batik. This was made by Holly in college, and it is one of her favorite pieces. I believe we got it framed for Christmas or her birthday one year. My mother's an artist also, and she's painted this picture here above this tank, which is Kerrigan, when she was very young. And back behind over here, we have a painting that Holly did of some leaves in watercolor. Most of the artwork in our house are from friends, family, or ourselves. Holly's a very talented artist. My mother's got great work, and work that spans like several years of work. And I've got a few photographs and other things that we've had framed over the years too. Okay, so next week we're going to look at exactly where these plants came from. That's the 55. So we're going to discuss tearing down an old friend like the 55 to create something new and beautiful, which is what we did for this. If you guys have watched the updates and stuff, you know that I had some problems with the 55. Not terrible problems, and not really problems like inside the tank. It's more external things that I had to deal with. I'm not going to put up another tank without taking one down at this point. There's too many to keep up with. And that one was pretty long-lived. I think it kind of hit its peak, and then it settled into something nice and mellow, and I probably could have kept it up for a few more years. But really, I kind of wanted to clear it out, harvest what was there, and move forward with some new stuff, new exciting things. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to spend the rest of my weekend, learning to breakdance. And, I've got my weekend all planned. I hope you guys have a terrific week. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Probably the first step for this will be I have to go meet my wife for lunch. I've got some other taller. I'd only do that to really kind of get the, make sure the good. Hey, today not only do I show you, to be most effective, I probably should add fish along with it.